Hello and welcome back to ParticularPixels. I'm Xiaoling and this is Renowned Explorers International Society, along with both of its expansions, More to Explore and Emperor's Challenge. I never had a chance to play the game when it was first released in 2015. I heard very good things about the game though, and I've finally gotten a chance to try out the game along with all of its DLC, and I'm pretty impressed. So Renowned Explorers International Society is a very interesting little game. You control a team of 3 explorers who have to complete 5 expeditions and come out on top with the most renown. When you start the game, you'll select a captain from a list of characters. Each captain has different bonuses for your playthrough, so the captain you'll select will depend on what you're trying to achieve. Then you'll select 2 additional characters to fill out your team. The characters fall into 4 categories: scientists, scouts, fighters and speakers, all of which grant different bonuses when certain game challenges are completed, as well as perks which give them significantly better chances at completing challenges that require those perks. And all the characters of course have stats: speech power, which governs their effectiveness with friendly and devious attacks; attack power, which governs their physical attack damage; grit, which essentially is your ability to dodge or avoid any kind of attacks including speech attacks; speech defense; armor; movement; and spirit, which is essentially your health. Once you've made your selection, you can start your first expedition. The gameplay on the expedition map is pretty simple. You have a limited amount of supplies, so you can only make that many moves before you start taking stat penalties. You move between various nodes in the game. The nodes will offer some kind of token rewards. Some will be combat encounters, some will award you with more supplies, some will have perk specific challenges. So if you have the skills required, for example if you have survivalist or engineer or diplomat, you will have a much higher chance at success when you meet those challenges that require those abilities, and net yourself a nice reward. When you're faced with a challenge, you'll pick one of a number of different responses, each with the indicated percentage chance. Obviously you'll be picking the highest one, and then there'll be kind of a roulette wheel, and based off of the percentage that you had. So if you had, for example, 90%, there's a 90% chance that you'll succeed with the roulette wheel, but there's still a 10% chance of failure. Failing challenges can reduce the stats for the duration of the expedition. It can reduce your supplies or reduce your resolve, which I'll talk about when we get to the combat, or you may just miss out on some loot. You'll also be moving between these nodes, trying to get as many tokens and treasure icons as possible before making your way through to the last location, which contains a boss encounter. There are several different types of tokens in the game that you'll collect during the expeditions: campaign tokens, study tokens, encounter tokens, secrets and collectibles, all of which equate to gold, status and research, which will be used as a form of currency to buy entourages, specialists, invest in research and buy new gear for your team. And all of these upgrades will add more bonuses to the tokens you get in future expeditions, increasing your team's effectiveness as you progress through the game. So your campaign tokens will reward you with more stats, or your encounter tokens will reward you with more gold, for example. The combat system in the game is pretty interesting as well. At first glance, it seems to be a typical turn-based action RPG. You move and attack when it's your turn, and then the enemies take their turn. However, you'll notice that on the top left corner of the screen there are 3 bars: friendly, devious and aggressive. Finishing the combat in that particular mood will offer specific bonuses. In the top center of the screen you'll see the current mood of the encounter, and to the right you'll see sort of a rock paper scissors diagram. Devious beats aggressive, aggressive beats friendly, and friendly beats devious. To the left you'll see the current progress to another mood. And the way this works is that if an enemy is aggressive and you attack them with devious, you'll get 1 blip into the devious progress. If you defeat an enemy with devious, you'll get 2 blips toward the devious mood. Once all those blips are full, the mood of the encounter will change. Changing the mood in combat is actually pretty important and quite a core mechanic in the gameplay, because mood incurs buffs and penalties. Knowing which buffs and penalties you get for various mood combinations is going to be key in some of the harder encounters in the game. You can also just click on the info panel on the side. It'll give you a breakdown of all the different moods and buffs and debuffs that will occur depending on what you choose. Each expedition is rated 2 to 5 stars in difficulty. Once you've completed 5 expeditions, the game will be over and your score is going to be tallied up, so whoever has the most renown will be the winner. You don't have to keep doing harder and harder expeditions. It is possible to combine some of the easy ones together, but you obviously aren't going to get as high of a renown score by doing that. The ability to have an entirely different team composition as well for each playthrough is going to change the way the combat encounters play out, as well as the choices that you'll be making on the expedition maps themselves, and the focus of what type of tokens you're going to be collecting depending on your chosen strategy, allowing you to experiment with a number of different strategies to try and get the highest score that you can. Of course, this is the kind of game that the more you play it, the more familiar you're going to get with the various encounters and the various things you find on the expedition map. So in successive playthroughs, you are going to get a higher score, hopefully, if you're familiar with the game mechanics. The gameplay loop is very enjoyable and very replayable. Even after several playthroughs, I never really felt that the game got repetitive or tiresome, and for me at least, it remained entertaining through my 8 hours with the game so far. So that's how the core game works. More to Explore DLC basically adds a few new expeditions to the game, which will allow you more choices when doing your playthrough. It also adds a campfire mechanic. Campfires are used once per expedition and basically offer some additional bonuses to your playthrough along with some backstory. It uses a card system, so each time you camp you'll choose a card that will offer you some bonuses depending on the card that you choose. So it can give you more tokens or give you more stats or something like that. With each playthrough you will also unlock more cards, and more unique cards will be added to your campfire deck that will provide you with even more choices and bonuses with your campfire situations. And finally, the latest DLC, the Emperor's Challenge, adds a new game mode called the Emperor's Challenge, 4 new characters and a new expedition. The new game mode adds additional challenges to your playthrough via challenges. In the base game, you're basically trying to get more renown than your counterpart, and of course whoever has the most renown wins, as I mentioned earlier. However, in the Emperor's Challenge game mode, you're given tasks that will reward you with porcelain jars, and whoever has the most of these at the end of the expedition wins, so it's not going to be a renown victory. So for example, you'll be awarded porcelain for completing certain goals during your expedition. So leveling up a character, or getting a certain amount of campaign tokens, or doing specific challenges on the map. And these goals are even added to encounters, so switching moods during an encounter or doing a certain amount of damage, etc. in the encounter will reward you with porcelain jars. Now this new game mode offers a new level of challenge to honestly what is already quite a challenging game even on normal mode, at least when you first start out. Not only are you trying to win the encounters now and trying to survive each expedition, you now also have to actively try and meet these criteria for winning the porcelain, which in many cases will force you to play in ways that you wouldn't normally play. So it can turn an encounter that would normally have been quite easy just to win through it, but in order to get these porcelain you have to play the encounter in a very different way. So it provides for a much more thought-provoking match and much more challenging in my opinion. And the thing is this, if you fail to meet the requirements on the map or in the encounters to get these porcelain rewards, your rival will automatically get the porcelain reward. So it's pretty easy to fail these goals if you're not paying attention, which ends up catapulting your rival's porcelain score above yours and putting you on the back foot to play catch up basically for the rest of the expedition. But all in all, I think that the Emperor's Challenge adds a new and a fresh approach to I think what is already a very replayable game. On top of the new game mode, there are now also daily and weekly challenges that also grant porcelain rewards. That will definitely keep you guys busy. And I'd say don't be fooled by the aesthetic of the game. The game is much deeper than it looks, and as I mentioned before, it has an incredible amount of replayability and is very, very enjoyable indeed. So Renowned International Explorer Society is a really good game. Add to that the DLC and you've got an experience with a ton of content, a ton of replayability, and all for a pretty decent price. Not to mention that there are also numerous difficulty settings in the game as well if you want the added challenge. It really is hard not to recommend this game. If you're planning on picking it up, I'd highly recommend you get the bundle that comes with all of the content. If you don't want to pick up all the DLC and I suppose you had to choose between the two DLC, I would probably go with the Emperor's Challenge, since I think it's a more meaty DLC. It adds more to the game with the new game modes and everything like that. But even I suppose if you don't want to go with any of the DLC, the vanilla game already has a ton of replayability and is really enjoyable. Anyways, that's been a look at Renowned Explorers Complete Bundle. If you have any questions or comments as usual, you can leave them in the section below. If you guys did enjoy the video, don't forget to like and share it since it does help out the channel a lot. And if you want updates to new content, don't forget to subscribe. I've been Xiaoling. Thanks for watching. Until next time.